There was a journalism department already in the SPPU. We figured it out that there are many training opportunities required apart from a journalism. Therefore, the establishment of this particular department during 1990s in order to give training to the television production. So we have specializations of production, media, and also media research now. As I said, this is the second GIAN program. We had a very generic gender and media digital labor kind of a program in 2018, I guess, before the pandemic, which was very generic in nature, and we really had a good turnout for that, and it was a very successful GIAN program. In the same line, we were really brainstorming what can be the next GIAN course, and everyone were almost, moving out with this new generative AI and machine learning. We just thought of take a pause and look back into the history. And then I'm glad that Professor Rajagopal was with us in looking at the history, especially with the media and the international world order. Then actually the proposal was submitted to the GIAN, and fortunately it got selected, and therefore today we are here to this very niche GIAN course, which is of 2 credits, and it's on media, law, and world order for a 10-day program. This course definitely brings in very interestingly and inform us also about the international world order, especially from 20th century to the present times, and it examines very interestingly the relationship of media in the democratic context, obviously, and how it became a tool rather. In fact, it's a battleground from the Cold War onwards. So that was one of the niche area where many media scholars right now are not working, but this is something which is very important right now. It also examines, especially from the context of international law and the relationship between the media norms and the law, and at the same time it also looks at how it shapes the global political power and also the new information or the free flow of communication, the information flow which is going to affect us all. So this particular pause was very interesting for us, and therefore we are here today. And this is going to be an introductory session where a professor will give us the orientation about the entire course. But today we have with us definitely to know about little more about the GIAN program. I invite Dr. Anupa Kumbar ma'am to just give an overview of what this GIAN is all about in SPPU especially, and then students will take over what this course is all about, and then thank you ma'am.
Good morning everyone, and thank you Madhavi madam. So it is a great pleasure for me to welcome you on behalf of Pune University to attend this GIAN program. So GIAN is Global Initiative of Academic Networks. So the program has been started in 2014 by the Ministry of Education, Government of India. And since then, 3 phases of this GIAN program has been completed, and we are running the 4th phase. So being an A+ accredited state level university, we are the part of GIAN program, and other institutions like Institute, IITs, ISERs, NITs, and Indian Institute of Science, they are the part of this GIAN program. So we are very fortunate enough, because of our high accreditation, we can run this GIAN program. And now in first 2 phases, we have completed about 35 GIAN programs successfully. Under phase 3, we were sanctioned few, but because of pandemic, we could not run the courses. And in the 4th phase, out of 12 submitted proposals, 6 are sanctioned. So it is overall 50% sanction rate, and that is seen all over India, irrespective of the institution who are submitting the proposals. And why this less number of programs? It is because initially the nodal agency was IIT Kharagpur, and they changed hands now to IIT Hyderabad. So in between, 6 months have gone in transition, and that is why the rate of submission as well as sanction is there. So with this brief history of GIAN, mandate of GIAN is to invite the very accomplished foreign faculties to the Indian universities and give our students an exposure to the learning and teaching of the international universities. Other way around, what we expect from the foreign faculties is to get to know the Indian educational system, the student culture, the teaching culture, and if possible, have a collaboration so that with this hand-holding, we can grow together globally. With this, we have a very accomplished foreign faculty, Professor Arvind Rajagopal sir, and I feel that this course on media, law and world order would be very enriching for you. So I wish you all the best and happy learning. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. I understand that the participants are coming from various occupations as well as this is the first time, I guess, the students, research scholars, faculty members, even outside the faculty members from various media allied fields are coming together. So very few occasions we are together for this learning, and the presence of Vice Chancellor signifies the initiative which we have taken. I request Honorable Vice Chancellor sir to share few thoughts on this inaugural lecture. Thank you, sir.
Namaskar, good morning and welcome to the beautiful campus of Savitribai Phule Pune University. As you know that Savitribai Phule Pune University is 75-year-old institute. It is the second largest university in the state of Maharashtra. Pune being a cultural city, it's an education hub, auto hub, IT hub, and now gaining new identity as biodesign, bioengineering hub. Of course, mass and media is one of the mandate of this particular city. The city is growing and there are more than 28 universities in Pune itself. Being a state university, second largest, 750,000 students at one point of time, more than 1,200 institute affiliated with us. This is what the quantum and the university jurisdiction is. Okay, so we have 411 acres campus here. There are 4 national institutes on campus. Inter-University Astronomy, Astrophysics, NCRA, NCCS, and CDAC. These are the 4 institutes on campus. We have a good hand-holding with these all national institutes. Apart from that, in the periphery of 5 kilometers, you will find out, okay, there are more than 10 institutes, okay, which is of national importance, and also the, I would say, Defense Institute. That's how we are located, and we have a good cooperation and collaboration with all these institutes, and therefore, the academics on the campus is very vibrant. For this particular GIAN program, we have our esteemed guest and the resource person, Professor Arvind Rajagopal, who has come all the way from New York University and who will be sharing his experience and expertise with all of us. And for this program, as Professor Madhvi has rightly mentioned, that okay, it's a heterogeneous group where students, faculty members, professionals are together. And apart from the expertise from the resource person, probably there will be a good exchange of thoughts from professional to the students, and then how they have to really excel in their career in order to reach to the society. I think this will be a good discussion and deliberation in this particular GIAN program, which is the uniqueness which I can see in this particular program. As the title says, that's media, law, and world order. Okay, so I mean, when the mass media comes together, okay, you have to follow certain norms, okay, and whether we are really following the ethics and other things, okay, it's really important. Otherwise, from pandemic, everyone has realized that, okay, like the digitization and the digital life has really changed a lot. And if my phone doesn't ring in next 2 minutes, I feel that, okay, I'm isolated from the society. That's what the things are. Another experience I would like to share with you, that even I have myself experience, okay, like my daughter was in 12th, and then of course every 12th student has to go to the class. It's unwritten rule, okay, and then even though I'm a physics professor, I have to send her to physics class. For some reason that she said that you are a good teacher, you teach very well, but that sentence and the statement which is required in the examination, if doesn't come, it doesn't pay me, okay. And there was a question on Kirchhoff's law. And in their Kirchhoff's law, in the textbook, okay, they have a statement of equivalent. I said effective. It's the same word, okay. And she has written effective, and finally she got 1 less mark. She said, okay, like, with you probably I'll not get number, okay. And therefore, okay, and then after that, okay, what I have observed that, okay, all the students, when they come out from the class, without saying hello to their own parents who are waiting there in the lobby or maybe at the parking to get their word outside from the class, everyone opens their phone number, and then, okay, they looks at, okay, who has contacted them. I mean, okay, this is what the situation is. So we are all the way connected with the friends, but not with the parents and with the family members. This is what the observation is. Second observation, the family goes to the dinner or I'm okay for in the hotel, and everyone is busy with their own phone. What for it is? And I think I have seen the initiative of in some of the cafeteria, okay, they said they cannot say phones are not allowed, but they have put the jammers. So no range, therefore at least they are sitting quietly and then at least talking with their own family members. I think this is what a situation with this new communication system. I think the message has to go to the society that when you are together, okay, spend quality time. And that's what I think probably from date 1 to the 15th in the state of Maharashtra, we are having the campaign of book reading. So that, okay, at least they will open up the book, okay, and physical book reading. And the earlier, okay, like we had that, okay, 1 hour book reading, okay, Shantata Punekar Vachat Ahet. So be quiet, all the Puneites are reading the books, and then everyone was reading, even rickshaw wala stop his rickshaw and then read the book. Now this campaign for this 15 days, okay, you read a book and now write a review on that, what exactly you have done. Otherwise, it's not just campaign, okay, just to read and take a photograph and then put it on the Instagram or wherever it is, okay. So instead of that, really read it and then see that. But the analysis which we are doing, okay, like what exactly professor is reading, what exactly he is reading, and then it shows that, okay, it's a Gaussian distribution, and most of the people, okay, who are reading in this period, okay, they are mostly reading historical things. High-end science and other things are reading very less, okay. So this is what analysis part we have been doing at the back end, and we almost got more than 11 lakhs 11,000 data set, okay, which books people are reading. So back end we are doing the analysis, and this is what the strength of the SPPU, okay, where we are trying to analyze what exactly the society is looking for, and the role of media people is really important. Because what you give to the society, that is being considered as a right thing on that day before the analysis is done, okay. So they trust, okay, and I think when the trusting relations are there, okay, like we have to really give true information to the society, and then I think that's how the role of everyone is. And therefore the mandate in the course says that, okay, law, I mean, okay, like what exactly it is, okay, and how it has to be related as far as the national and international laws are concerned. With this brief, once again, I welcome you, and I hope that you will have a good time on campus. It's a beautiful campus, okay, move around those who are from outside. Those who are from inside, okay, make sure that, okay, your friends in this particular group, okay, they will really visit couple of things. We have a heritage walk on campus. The building here, okay, it's a heritage building. We have a good tunnel there. I think if profs get the chance, okay, it will be good to to have that particular things done. Apart from that, okay, as far as the science and technology is concerned, we have a rich research going on campus. You name the equipment, it's present on the campus. That's how we have been doing. As far as the internationalization of higher education is concerned, Savitribai Phule Pune University is the first state university which has opened its own campus in Qatar, and this year Prof will be opening 4 more campuses from June, July onwards. Okay, one will be in Kazakhstan, Georgia, then Dubai and Kyrgyzstan. So this is what we have been doing as far as the internationalization is concerned. We have tie-up with the state universities in US and universities in Melbourne. Since last 6-7 years, we have been running a course with Melbourne University. And the question, when the foreign university comes to the campus, okay, the first question they ask, okay, how do we maintain the quality of the education? And the answer which was given to them that, okay, like, okay, I teach the course in the class and you set the paper from US. And if my students are doing quite well, that's fine. Okay, then we are doing quite well. But the next point, okay, like let's do the thing. Okay, like next time you teach the class, I'll set the question paper. My turn comes later on. So how to set the paper is in my hand later on. Then that gives the quality of education. Okay, like we give the confidence to the foreign partner that, okay, we are doing quite well as far as the internationalization is concerned. We have come up with the national education policy, which has given us the freedom and also little flexibility to have 2 years in SPPU and 2 years outside. Okay, so from this year onwards, okay, the students will be doing half of the course in SPPU, and probably they will be going to our foreign partners. Okay, let's say Melbourne University. We have a tie-up with Drexel University, so that, okay, they will have 1 year here. So basically, how to make the same education economically viable so that the students spend less amount, okay, on their education. So it's almost 50% they can save in the education system. This is what we have been doing. I hope once again I welcome you on this campus and hope that the deliberation and discussion in this particular GIAN program will give some takeaway home message, okay, which you will pass on to your colleagues, okay, who are working in the same field. Okay, with this brief, I wish good success to this course, and on behalf of the university, I welcome Prof on the campus. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir. As you rightly said that this course is something which we wanted a face-to-face communication, not doing online, because professor would have been available doing the course from US, and we would have this post-pandemic, online sessions. But this is going to be intensive one-to-one, a small group, face-to-face kind of a course, and that is what we are looking forward in this particular program. I now request Vice Chancellor sir to felicitate our chief guest today before I introduce Professor to all of you.
Well, this makes you an alumni of the SPPU. Yeah, welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, and welcome to.
I'm sure all of you are familiar with the name Professor Rajagopal, especially from the media groups and journalists who are working here. He has been a wonderful scholar working on many things, especially from coming from a New York University from the Department of Media, Culture and Communication. His popular work everyone knows, Politics After Television, one of the best work, prize-winning work. And of course, he has written a number of books, being a fellow in Stanford, Princeton, and Washington, D.C., and written many, many articles in the Hindu, of course, in Indian Express, and right now he's working on some media genealogy. The great work, which I will be anyway introducing him tomorrow. But today, I would like to welcome him to give introductory remarks of this particular course so that we can begin the exact course by tomorrow. I welcome you warmly to this Department of Media and Communication Studies, and we are really looking forward to your course, sir. But welcome again for this wonderful course, and I'll ask you to give some introductory remarks. Yeah.
It's a pleasure to be here. I'm honored for the invitation. Thank you, Madhuri. Thank you, Vice Chancellor. Thank you, Professor Kumbar. And welcome to all of you. As Professor Madhuri Reddy said, I would very much like this to be an occasion for interaction, to learn what kinds of issues are concerning you. May I suggest that if you have questions, you can of course interrupt and ask, but if you feel more comfortable and you want to write the questions down and hand them over, that's also fine, but or email after class is also fine, but please understand that the course to some extent depends on your responses, and I will seek to be guided by what your interests are so that I can respond to them adequately. The course I've conceived is very wide-ranging. In fact, the title of the course I initially suggested was Law, Media, World Order, but Dr. Reddy suggested I put media as the first word, and so that was done. But what I want to point out here is that although media is a word that now everybody knows, in every language, that word is used. You don't have to say madhyam or some other. It is an English word that has become a global word in an astonishingly short period of time, and you don't have to translate it. Now, if you look at this word, media, you can say, what is media? But then any attentive student of English will note media is a plural word. We should say, what are media? Is media a singular or a plural? If you ask people, or if you even look at how the word media is used, it can be singular, it can be plural. In the same paragraph, it can move from singular to plural and back. So media is a shape-shifting word. It's a word that has newly come into the language, has expanded, and we use it to refer to things which we don't always know what it's talking about. Media ऐसा कर रहा है, media ये बोलता है, media गलत कर रहा है, media सही कर रहा है. So we attribute values, qualities to the media without quite knowing what it is we are referring to. Are we talking about captains of industry, corporations, government, individual companies, individual corporate media persons? It can mean all of these things or some of them. It doesn't matter. We can simply say media. How did we get to a situation where more and more across the world we have a word standing for a set of institutions, forces, technologies that have acquired so much power, and yet when we talk about it, we may say, media, this is the problem, media. But we don't know what the word media means because it can mean so many things, and we are not obliged to clarify, specify what we are talking about. How did this happen? Very, very briefly, this is a post-World War II story. It's a post-World War II story. Yeah? And its arrival of the word media was signaled by one particular individual, Marshall McLuhan, in his 1964 text, many of you may know it, Understanding Media, where he says, among many things, media, the medium is the message. Yeah? You will all have heard. Medium is the message. Oh, what does it mean? Medium is the message. We can have a day-long discussion and still not agree. What does this mean? In a way, that's the power of the sentence. We can keep thinking about it. It will keep allowing us to generate new ideas, and still we will not exhaust this sentence. It's that kind of a statement. But what Marshall McLuhan, who remember was a Canadian, he was not a United States citizen, Canadian, who was saying something is going on in this with this word, which is now you can say we have a global village. Yeah, again, that's a media concept by Marshall McLuhan. The whole world has become a village. So there is a kind of, the word media is doing a lot of work. It's making connections. It is signaling a new way of thinking about the world. But if you go to a dictionary, if you go to an encyclopedia, media, Kya bolta hai? What is the history? What is the genealogy? Who are the philosophers? Nobody. There is no history, there is no genealogy, there is no lineage, nothing. Marshall McLuhan, he came up with the word. Then you can go before the philosopher Hegel, 18th century. I'll talk about that later. But this is a post-World War II story when the United States becomes leader of the world. Yeah, we all know this. World War II, Nazism, fascism, right? It divides Europe. The Axis powers and the Allied powers, they fight. Soviet Union loses. Anybody know how many people Soviet Union lost in World War II? How many lives they lost? They were the maximum in terms of casualties and victims. 25 million, maybe 30 million people died in Soviet Union in order to defeat fascism. Yeah, it should be remembered. How many people did United States lose? Maybe 50,000. Okay, so, but as the play of fate had it, United States was declared the winner, and within a few years, Soviet Union became the enemy. Yeah, we won't get into it. That's a long story. Now, the point is that when the United States, from being a provincial country, again, it should be remembered, United States was a provincial country, all the elite, all the educationally ambitious people, if they wanted higher studies, they would not stay in United States. They would go to Europe, because only in Europe they could be world class. Yes, United States, therefore, at the dawn of the post-World War II era, was not a world class country. It was provincial. It was a backwaters. And there's a whole project of building up United States institutions, its cultural prestige, etc. Not much noticed in that process was this category of media. And again, I'm simplifying for the purpose of, just an introductory remark. What we can say in retrospect, in hindsight, was that media became a proxy for American power. Okay, a proxy for American power. It became a way to convey and extend American influence without appearing to do so. Without appearing to do so. Yeah? And now, again, that opens up a new can of worms. It's a big question. I'm not giving you a simple theory here. It's just making some broad strokes. But briefly, throughout history, any society, any civilization, any empire, they controlled the technologies and instruments of communication very, very rigidly, very tightly. Okay? You had priests, you had, aristocrats, literacy was limited, whether it was in UK, whether it was in India. The upper classes did not want the lower classes to be educated. They resisted it. Yeah? There was no value of universal literacy, universal education. This began to change in the late 19th century, mid to late 19th century. But something major happened in the post-World War II period, which was the following, that United States assumed world leadership, and in a way, although they were already the most powerful country in the world in terms of money, weapons, other, technological prowess, they did not have the, they did not know how to claim leadership. They did not know how to advertise leadership. They could not say, these are American values, because they did not know what are American values. You had a high-level conference at Princeton University. What are American values? What should we tell the world? How do we lead the world? Yeah. So this was a moment actually of a lot of people trying to figure out, yes, now world leadership has fallen into the hands of the United States. How do we manage it? Okay, many things went on in many fields. What I am focusing on here is one line of that process which has received very little attention for reasons that I will also explain. It was not an innocent overlooking of some important fact. This idea that information should be free and information flow should be free. This was an idea that came up during World War II when the American wire service agencies were trying to collect news from South America, from other parts of the world, and they found that Associated Press, United Press were resisted by the European cartels, by Reuters, by Wolf, by Havas, Agence France Presse. They were resisting US intervention into those markets. That gave rise to a formula, free flow of information, which was taken up in the diplomatic circles by people like John Foster Dulles, who became Secretary of State, very famous Cold Warrior. And John Foster Dulles at one point said in 1945, if I was to be allowed 1 point foreign policy agenda, just 1 point, it would be the free flow of information. Okay, now you think about it. What is going on? Why would the free flow of information serve American interests? So if you think about that, well, 1945, United States owned half the world's media or more. Europe, most of Europe lay in shambles. Their infrastructure was weakened, destroyed. And the calculation was that if information is allowed to flow freely, you are basically saying every country that is trying to limit foreign news from coming in, foreign influence, foreign ideas from coming in, we can call them authoritarian. And that was not an abstract calculation. This was, of course, the birth of the Cold War, the birth of the war between West and communist countries, which were, for these purposes, considered in the East. Yeah? And the calculation was that free flow of information will eventually, over the long run, destroy communism, and capitalism will flourish without any opposition. Now, if we look at it from 2025, that prediction which John Foster Dulles made in the late 1940s has come true. It has come true. Only capitalism flourishes. Any opposition to capitalism can have political overtones and be subject to various kinds of interpretation. But the world that was envisioned of freedom, harmony, democracy, unity, cooperation, that all of those outcomes which were anticipated and expected from media have not been realized. Yeah, so I'm beginning this class with this kind of paradox that media were assumed to be the enablers and institutions of democracy. What we see today is, and I think the Vice Chancellor's remarks also drew attention to that, the more media we have does not lead to an increase in democracy. It can easily go the other way. It can easily go the other way. Yeah? So how did this happen? Now I come to my third term of law. So, and I'll introduce this remark with a sort of historical point. In 1936, the United States passed its Major Communication Act, 1936. And of course, media were growing by leaps and bounds in the following years. The next legislation the United States passed on media was after the end of the Cold War, 1996. In other words, the period when media was most important to fight the Cold War, to broadcast free information across the world, make free flow of information possible across the world. During that time, there was no legislation whatsoever on media in the world's most powerful country in the world. Yeah, so what that suggested was a lot of the decisions about media were happening through consensus, through informal means, and that legislation was not actually the site of policy pronouncement. In fact, the words media and policy never went together. In the United States, policy was a bad word. It suggested communism, socialism, state control. Everything has to be creative, spontaneous, bottom up, So the fact that law was kept out of media has returned to haunt us today. Because today we notice that without law, without regulation, media are guaranteed to create chaos. Guaranteed to create chaos. But since we have had now 75 years of practice in thinking that media and law should not go together, because America has shown the way that media have to be free, the information flow has to be free, there is a great deal of resistance even at the popular level. Or many disagreements are possible. To arrive at ways of thinking about regulation for media is not only a policy challenge, it's a cultural challenge. We have to surmount that cultural challenge. So those are the sort of broad sketches with which I would introduce my topic, and I don't want to go on and on because I know our Vice Chancellor is busy, and but that outlines the theme that I'm trying to explore in this short 10-day class.
Thank you so much, Professor Rajagopal, for the introductory remarks. We'll break here for a 5 minutes tea break, and then of course we will resume back for the introductions of the candidates who have enrolled for this course. Of course, the course will definitely begin from tomorrow with the brief introductions of all the participants, and the course schedule which was written and already shared with you through the brochure will begin with the course curriculum from tomorrow onwards. Thank you so much for coming to this inaugural session, and especially I thank Vice Chancellor to be here and definitely giving time to this particular program, though he is busy with his own schedule. Those who are not from Pune University, Professor Suresh Gosavi is from pure sciences, did his PhD from electronic sciences, but a physics professor who is acclaimed with many publications and working thoroughly. A researcher and at the same time now a good administrator, which actually can see kind of a work he's doing right now. Thank you so much, sir, for spending your valuable time and giving some time to Department of Media and Communication Studies. We are really thankful that you have come first time as a Vice Chancellor to this department. Please have a look at our studios, which are again the funding you have we have received through your help, and your support is really required to have programs like this and also to develop some infrastructural development. Thank you so much. Ma'am, thank you so much for reorienting the entire GIAN, and we'll break here now and then we'll resume back. Thank you so much.
So I'll elaborate some of the points I already made, and feel free to jump in if you have any questions. As I said at the outset, the expectation was that more media will lead to a better democracy, more media will lead to more enlightenment. That was the expectation. And somehow you can't have enough of media, can't have enough of a good thing, more, always good. That was the very naive, right? Very naive, very simplistic. Some of you may have encountered, Jacques Derrida, who talks about Plato, philosopher Plato. And I just want to introduce this one concept which is very important, pharmakon. Pharmakon, I don't know, So basically what Plato, philosopher many years ago now, what he said is that the pharmakon is something that can cure, it can also kill. So very simple idea that everything has to be in moderation. You don't put too much of anything. Anything that can cure, that can have a good effect, can also have a bad effect. That's a general idea about technology. All technology is, you can say, bivalent. This is reflected in the God who stole fire from the gods and gave it to men. Yeah, Prometheus. Yeah, Prometheus. Yeah, so this fire in this Greek mythology represented technology. It is both. It has a curative property. It is also dangerous property. Can consume, can kill. Yeah. So the thinking about media, we can see at the very outset, has been extremely naive, extremely one-sided. Yeah, and in fact, there's a much longer tradition of being aware of the dangers of media, dangers of technology. Yeah. Now, specifically, if you think about India, we notice an increase in the enclaving of media consumption. You may be consuming media, but others are consuming different media, and especially we see that meaningful, productive dialogue is often, it was assumed that there will be one big public sphere, everybody will be able to dialogue within it and thereby achieve mutual understanding, harmony and so on. Instead, what we witness today is a fragmentation, enormous fragmentation of media, so that in fact you don't have an automatic production of harmony. In fact, the opposite result is very often achieved instead. Yeah? Discord, outrage, more emotion, less reason. Yeah? And again, this is all contrary to expectations. Knowledge of the world increasingly is filtered through the media. So, in a sense, the word media has become a proxy for the world as such, or society as such. Say, media is saying this, that often stands for all the knowledge. So that suggests the extent to which media has become a filter through which we engage with the world. Yeah, and as I mentioned, there's a history to this way of thinking about this word media as that kind of a proxy or representation for the world at large. That's this Cold War history. Yeah, Cold War history where United States is looking for a way to assert its influence without following the European imperial tradition. What was the European imperial tradition? It was to say English civilization is superior, French civilization is superior, Dutch civilization is superior, you be like us, you will never be like us, but you try, it's okay, we'll help you, you try. That was the approach in general in the pre-World War II period, you can say. Yeah. In the post-World War II period, when you had the United States becoming world leader, so the manifesto or the program for media influence is actually spelt out by a media baron, an American media baron, in a 1941 essay published in a magazine that he owned. Here I'm talking about Henry Luce. Henry Luce, who was the owner of Time magazine, Life magazine, Sports Illustrated, Fortune magazine. He was the biggest media baron in the United States, most influential man. Yeah? And in 1941, he published an essay looking at the World War, looking at the European chaos. He said America can become the world leader now. And in fact, the world wants America to become leader. And if you look at the world everywhere, everyone loves American products. Everyone is watching American movies, listening to American songs. In a way, he was describing what after the end of the Cold War came to be known as soft power. Yeah, but this was before that term had been arrived at. So he said, this is the American century, we have to seize the opportunity and make America the world leader, because we are so good, everybody will be happier. Right? We are not like the British imperialists, we are not like the French imperialists. We will give everybody a fair deal, because that's who we are. We are democratic, we are fair, treat everybody equally, and everybody will be celebrating if we do this. Now here it's a longer history, of course. You would all be knowing the national struggle, freedom struggle, where of course media played a role. And here you had a broadly division between English language media, which was the colonial media. It spoke to the English elite, who it reflected their own viewpoint. And then there were Indian language, Hindi, Tamil, Telugu, this, that and the other, where it was much closer to the people and tended to be much more suspicious of British colonial rule. Yeah, that's the so how did the colonial elite see the Indian language media? They saw it as anti-national, right? Because they were the true nationalists. They knew what India stood for. They were able to bridge all the cultural differences. They represented the highest level of commonality in their minds. And so the Indian media in the colonial viewpoint was anti-national, and what we witnessed from the transition from the pre-independence to the post-independence period is the media were initially anti-national, positioned as anti-national, and after 1947 they are positioned as nationalist. That's a very rough way to describe how media shift and transform during the 20th century. Nationalism becomes the default. Everybody has to be nationalist. There is no discussion what is nationalism, I have these disagreements, this other view. There was no such thing. There is one Indian nation, there is one Indian nationalism, there is one nationalist party, Congress party, dominant party. Everybody follows that. Yeah, so nationalism was not a subject where there were disagreements possible at that time, and media reflected that. They reinforced it, you could say. Now, in one interesting respect, the media could not do what they wanted to do. Okay? They could not achieve that kind of uniformity, that kind of homogeneity, and this was because there had been a freedom struggle. Lakhs of people all over the country had participated in protest, and what was their method of protest? When their citizenship was denied, their rights were denied, what was their protest? What was their method? Their method of protest was to break the law, civil disobedience. In a sense, they were denied the right to political assertion, and they tried to achieve that right by breaking the law, making themselves prominent, getting attention. So media was a part of the nationalist formula for the Indian nationalist formula for achieving influence. As a result of this history, however, breaking the law in the Indian context, as in so many other post-colonial contexts, became, you might say, institutionalized as routine way to do politics. You have a dharna, you have an andolan, morcha, bhuk hartal, gherao. We from A to Z we have vocabulary for the kinds of popular protests that we are staging. Yeah. So, for instance, I'll quote from a Hindustan Times article, December 17, 2024. Opposition leader Mallikarjun Kharge, addressing the Rajya Sabha on 75 years of the Indian Constitution, he referred to the Prime Minister and to the Union Defence Minister Rajnath Singh's speeches in the Lok Sabha, and he said, "You never said what you did for the country or how many times you went to jail." Okay? And you think about it, this is a very distinct post-colonial kind of sentiment. It could not be so clearly understood, in the West. And as it happens, even Prime Minister Narendra Modi has said, "I also went to jail. 1971 Satyagraha, I also went to jail." Now, whether he actually went to jail or not is another matter. He has to claim he went to jail. Okay, so that tells you how the law is not rigid. In the understanding of people engaged in popular politics, the law is supposed to be flexible. It's supposed to be bending in response to politics. That remains even today. Yeah. Widespread sentiment. I heard it from someone engaging in protest once in Mumbai. अगर हम बगावत नहीं करते तो सरकार अपनी मनमानी करेगी. So that way revolt is part of the basic vocabulary of politics. What that also means is that media forms can produce unexpected outcomes because they are against the law, they are transgressive. So media forms do not simply reproduce an existing situation, they can proliferate and create totally unexpected outcomes. Let me pause here. If you have any questions or comments or concerns, if there's any. Yeah. Yes. Expectations. No, generally, anywhere. Although my historical examples here are post-colonial. No, not at all. It's just that they're very open. Their very openness makes it risky for any assumption that you will get the desired outcomes. That's all. Yeah. So, for instance, Trump, for example, was So now I'd like to shift to the question of social science analysis of media. Yeah. And here the most influential analysis has been from broadly Frankfurt School. Yeah. So German Jewish intellectuals who were impacted by Nazism and went to the United States for some time. And what was their conclusion when they lived for several years in the United States, studied US society? Their conclusion was fascism and US capitalist society are in the same, they're in a continuum. Maybe they're different, but one leads to the other. So that was their conclusion. Why did they say that? Anybody? Why did they say that German Nazism, American capitalism, straight line, can move from one to the other without interruption? What was the reason? Absolute power, and yes, that's true, but then capitalism allows a certain kind of exercise of rights. You have the right to consume, you have the right to watch media, you have the right to buy things. What they are saying is this very act that appears to be free, and in your personal life it is free. I watch, nobody tells me what I should think. I buy goods, I can enjoy the goods, nobody is telling me. But this process of mediation through commodities and through commodity messages, through commodity communication, is having its own influence which needs to be factored in. And their analysis about how this influence can be understood is that we have one form of mediation that is increasingly connecting every aspect of society, that is through the market. As the market expands, everything is for sale, everything has a purchase price, and the saleability, the exchangeability of every single capacity, object, entity is what unites society more and more, right? It's the market itself that is uniting us, but what kind of unity does the market give us? The unity that the market gives us, according to the Frankfurt School, is not a genuine unity. It's a unity that presents the image of harmony in order to continue the work of the market. Right? Continuing the work of the market is more important than actual genuine harmony, unity, etc. Yeah? So this the word that Adorno and Horkheimer use in their book Dialectic of Enlightenment, they do not use the word media, okay? That comes much later, but they are noticing that the whole world is now being mediated by capital. That capital is now mediating the world and achieving the presentation of unity. Okay, so this is how the word media actually is, you can see the power of the word media in this usage, that it is actually reflecting the spread and the envelopment by the market of the world, right? And this act of mediation is later come to be symbolized by the institution of the media. Yeah? But first it is capitalism that is understood to mediate everything. That's how the idea initially comes up. Yeah? So now in this analysis of the media, we have the Frankfurt School, as I said, which came out very critical, extremely critical of, society, culture, of, communication effects and so on. Of course, there was a strong reaction on the American establishment side. Yeah? And you may know some of that. Yeah? Strong reaction. They said this whole trend of thinking that people are fools. Thinking that people are fools, that they're cultural dupes. They are thinking that, media is a kind of injection which is sending people into some false consciousness. All of that is wrong. People are strong, people are intelligent, people are free, people are making up their own minds. Power to the people. Whatever the people say is fine. Hell with Frankfurt School, hell with all these critical theories. So they arrived at a kind of, you can say, rejectionist approach, where their concern was actually to affirm, endorse and praise the media, because this is where that view took shape. Media are good, more media are even better, even more media are even better than that. Yeah, so an unquestioning validation of media. And why did they do that? Well, this was an American position. You see, this was an American position taken after World War II, when there had been an informal decision that media will represent American power more effectively and more inconspicuously than any other entity, whereas the Europeans at this time were much more critical. They had experienced fascism, they had experienced propaganda, they knew the power of lies, and they rejected this kind of highly simplistic approach that the Americans gave. A few years later, another German theorist arose who kind of made a bridge between the American view and the European view, and that person's name was Jürgen Habermas. Now, Jürgen Habermas is a very, esteemed philosopher, and always the nuances are there, no question about it. But when you look at how Habermas was understood, how he was positioned, what ideas were taken away from Habermas, he became the figure who said media are good. Actually, you can create a public sphere, you can create a democracy outside the state, everybody can participate, there will be equality and rational critical engagement thanks to the media, and so you can build democracy through the media. If you read him closely, that's not what he said, but this was the argument taken away from Habermas. He came to stand for this view. Yeah? There was another scholar, Benedict Anderson, who was a political scientist, and he specialized in Southeast Asia. He knew many languages, mainly focused on Indonesia, and he took up this idea from Habermas and built on it to say we had something called print capitalism. Capitalism, everybody knows, is bad, but print capitalism is good because it helps people to read, and when people read, they discuss, and their rational powers increase. They are able to form bases for agreement and reasonable disagreement. I disagree with you, I'll tell you why. We can still be friends and disagree. So print capitalism, Benedict Anderson said, creates that kind of new, in a way it was an educated elite, which will then go on to create national, national independence in different countries. You could say maybe to some extent that happened in India, it happened in Indonesia, other countries, educated elites, the Nehruvian, Nehruvian elite who were lawyers, journalists, and formed, arenas of discussion that could put forward ideas that allowed national independence to go forward. Yeah. But as media evolved, now media are fundamentally, you don't know what is going to come in the media, you see, because when you say you're representing the world, well, then the world contains so many things which are not in your theories, which are not in your norms. So your norms are saying you should be secular, but the world is religious. Your media are opened up, well, then religion comes into the media. So what do you say about it? Right? So this immediately poses language. So, everything is in English, and Indian languages are second status or third status. You open the media, well, the languages come in. How do you have discussions between language communities? What will be the norms of adjudication? Who is to be right? How do you discuss these things? Right? So the openness of media, which is to say they bring you the world, by the same token they can challenge your norms, they can challenge your theories, and we have witnessed that process of challenging acquiring a greater and greater magnitude over the years. Yeah. In my book, which Dr. Reddy referred to, Politics After Television, I coined the term split public to refer to the fact that there was English media, there was Hindi language media, and during the Ram Janmabhoomi Andolan of 1987 to 1992, the English media were critical of the Ram Janmabhoomi Andolan, they were critical of BJP, they were critical of Vishwa Hindu Parishad. The Hindi media, in balance, was supportive. Some sections were enthusiastic supporters. Yeah? And the RSS themselves made this judgment that English criticism has also helped us. Supportive Hindi, enthusiastic Hindi coverage helped us. Hostile English media also helped us. Okay, so it is showing how the colonial history of misunderstanding, hostility between English and the Indian languages became an opportunity for mobilization in the context of Ram Janmabhoomi. Yeah, where if you criticize something and it is done in English, that becomes a proof that you are right because your enemy is saying you are wrong. Yeah, so that kind of dynamic showed how once television was introduced, 1987, you had the Ramayana epic began to be broadcast, and it created for the first time a kind of common awareness of some, shared symbols, shared narratives across the country, and the effects of the television broadcast worked out, were felt through the press. It was through the press that the ground level understandings actually worked themselves out. And even when the English press was hostile, it worked to the benefit of the Andolan. That was the nature of the strategies that were adopted during the Ram Janmabhoomi movement. Of course, now split public would have to be revised because perhaps now the Indian language media are even more influential than the English media. That's something we can discuss. And I can learn from all of you, I'm sure, but it's not what it used to be in the 90s. So what I want to talk to you about now is the national emergency of 1975-77, because I think that is a useful episode to examine the work of media and how it began to change following that period. Emergency was basically watershed. Things began to change after the emergency. So, in social science we talk about periods, periods, this period, that period. Emergency is it's between two periods, let's say. It's the high point of the Nehruvian project and it's the beginning of liberalization. So this is one example of the resistance by the media. Indian Express famously published an editorial, the blank, right? A blank editorial. It's a silent protest against the censorship. And in a way what they're saying is media is now an open battlefield. We are engaging, right? We are engaging by showing that we know it is a battlefield. We are showing the contours of the battlefield. Rangmanch, it's here, right? So that was a interesting move that Ramnath Goenka made at the time. But there were also copious billboards, other forms of communication, all kinds of vehicles, including posters, magazines, billboards, yeah, and they focused on economic issues because that was still it was not cultural issues so much. So that's the point I want to make. Until the emergency, economy, economic productivity, economic growth, those were the main focus of propaganda until that time. Yeah. So in a sense, this Nehruvian idea that if we grow the economy, culture will take care of itself. If people are able to feed themselves and live decent lives, we don't have to worry about their culture. It will automatically, those problems will solve themselves. And so this is the kind of belief underlying these communications, reduction of inequality. When do you see today towards reduction of inequality? That's not a theme that you see very much today in propaganda, but that's the kind of thing you would have at the time. And these are more specific. Smuggling is anti-people, yeah. But the slogan here, be Indian, buy Indian. So in that sense, there's a cultural elements that came in. Be Indian, buy Indian. It was, I believe, introduced during this emergency period, yeah. And of course, that takes a much greater role as the years go on. And FMCGs absorbed and reproduced propaganda in their own way. So this is from Amul. Some of you may have seen these. The MISA, the notorious MISA Act, under which the opposition was being jailed, it became an accompaniment to having Amul butter, maintain internal security, compulsory sterilization, again the most notorious program of the emergency, became a kind of amusing accompaniment to private commodity consumption. Now, it is not to say that you can be critical of those programs and still enjoy the advertisement. That is the genius of both of these. It doesn't ask you to take a choice, this side, that side, whatever side. I like Amul butter, I enjoy this communication. Yeah? So, a new style of communication which reflected the political environment but immunized the private sphere from it in some way through commodity consumption. So these ads show how the private sphere of commodity consumption could appear to be spontaneous. There's no overt coercion, nobody's telling them what to do. This is reflecting the consumer sentiment, consumer mentality, and so it is showing also the power of the advertisement, about which we can say a lot. Let me just say very briefly, the advertisement is a form of sponsored communication where the sponsor does not seem to be important at all. It is the communication that is important. It seems to be a free expression of sentiments anybody can share, but it does not fall under the realm of propaganda. But if you think about it, why is it not propaganda? Okay, not political, but it is also in the same sphere as politics. It is also able to have influence. So if you think about it, the story is much more muddy. And again, we can talk a lot about it, but there is a history here which is 18th century history. Okay, 18th century history, where you may remember United States, the rebellion against British colonial rule, 1776, right? What was the slogan? No taxation without representation. They were being taxed, but they did not have representation. What was the taxation? Taxation was on paper. The taxation was on newspapers which were collecting advertisements. British government wanted to tax them. And so this became a battle for enlightenment, that we are freely expressing our thoughts, our ideas. British government is taxing them, preventing us from reaching the poor people through our communication because they are taxing us. And that battle won that campaign won the day on the American side. Yeah. So advertisements were not taxed. It has a carryover effect until I'm not able to determine exactly when, but until maybe the 70s in India also, no taxation on advertisements. No taxation on advertisements. And so this is a Western battle, but it had a global reach. It had a global reach because the advertisement was such an important entity. Got that? Now let me come to the question of law and order. How can we understand this in relation to the evolution of law and order? The 19th and 20th century history of capitalism, you see a shift from rent seeking to profit seeking. What does that mean? So in the rent seeking phase of capitalism, the main source of value, as people understood it, was land. You had land, you could make money. You rented it out, you cultivated it, you tenant farmed it. Land was the source of wealth. And the term real estate. So real estate is actually French. Real, l'état real. Yeah? So it refers to royal estate. What that refers to is all the land was owned by the king. Only the king had the authority to own, the right to own land. Okay? So to that extent, land represented a concentration of power. The new kind of economic thinking that arose in the 18th century, so-called mercantilist thinking, David Ricardo and others, said it's not land that is the source of value and wealth, it is labor. And labor, everybody has the capacity to labor. Every human being can labor and create wealth by working on nature and making things for his or her satisfaction, for sale. So to think about economy in terms of labor rather than land was a democratizing influence. Rent seeking means I own the land, I will own it in perpetuity, you come, you rent, and my only interest is in getting more rent. I don't care how you produce your agriculture, whether you're using efficient farming methods, inefficient farming methods, I want more rent, that's all. So the shift to profit seeking opened up the question of efficiency, productivity, all these things that we associate with modern capitalism, yeah, increasing economic value in general. And this is the phase of free market. Free market where everybody has capacity to labor, they produce, generate wealth. Today, we are dealing with a return to rent. Right? Today, we are dealing with what is called digital rentier capitalism. Digital rentier capitalism. Yeah? And how does that arise? Because now we have increasingly media platforms are the new real estate. So attention is a bottleneck. We want to pay attention to everything, but I have only so much time. My mind is small. I'm not so intelligent. I can pay attention to this. I have to forget those other things. That's the context where all the media are operating, and we are also understanding that. And the job of the media companies is to capture our attention, yeah, which is scarce. Without some kind of a public technological platform, the problems of attention fragmentation and social disharmony can only increase. and that question of public ownership or control of technological platforms obviously correlates with this larger question of world order. I know these are big questions, but that is the context in which these changes have happened. Okay? So that concludes my presentation for today, and I'm happy to take questions. If there are any. Yes, indeed. Yes. The big tech.
The way these big techs are operating in India.
Yes.
So again, we are clearly in the state of flux, and obviously you come from that land, so obviously you have a better understanding of what is happening.
We are all from the same place. We read the media.
Yeah.
And all the media I read is available to all of us.
So I'm trying to understand, taking a macroscopic view, we as Indian media student, how should we look at this changing world order, and also what do you think as an expert, subject expert, and also coming from the very states, how the Indian media laws, how they would change in this particular pretext?
Thank you for your question. Very good question. Very difficult question. One thing I'll say is that there is a strong tendency to look for the national interests, and the national interest can often become the boundary of our concern, our interest, our attention, and that is not enough. Yeah, because as Trump's election has shown, the whole world is worried about who the United States elects as president, because the whole world knows that everybody is affected by who is elected in the United States. That's one data point to tell us we are in an international world, globalized world, but we are not prepared for it. We don't have the frameworks, which are all nationalist, to such an extent that if you present arguments that are internationalist, you can lose your audience very easily. You can be seen as, straying from the point being national. So that is, the second is that we have to consider the possibility that this liberal era of fair dealing, of formal equality before the law, of regulated treatment to minimize discrimination, those kind of apparatuses of the liberal era, we are clearly moving away from it. It's been happening for some time, but when it happens in the United States, you can say it's really happening, right? Because they themselves claim to be the foundation of world order. That was always the understanding. And indeed, when Trump got elected, everybody said, now everything is off the table. We don't know what's going to happen. Because precisely, he's a gambler in a sense. You know, he's not interested in norms. Laws are only means to achieve whatever he wants, etc. Third point is, there has been such an attachment to United States as the only country that can uphold world order, which, you know, people like even democratic presidents like Obama and Biden have repeatedly said, only the United States can uphold world order, and we are free, we are beautiful, etc. Meanwhile, China is able to produce electric vehicles at 1/3 the price of what the United States is able to produce. Free market, hello, no, this is authoritarian, it is, you know, all means must be used to double, triple the price of Chinese cars, to limit their market. That's only one indication of the extent to which they will are prepared to distort the system in order to retain US leadership. That's even the liberals. Yeah, so in a sense, the liberal system is compromised from within by the kind of attachment to this idea that only they can save the world. You know, and to give you one example, so Elon Musk has said, we are going to create societies in Mars. Space travel, rockets are already going up, I am sending them up. I do everything I claim to do, I do it. You see, car, this, that, rockets, we'll have societies in Mars. But it's going to be driven by capitalism. To which China and Russia, okay, China being still formerly communist country, Russia formerly communist, now not, but authoritarian, they are saying, no, cannot be capitalist, it must be for universal interest. Everybody must benefit. You cannot have companies capturing the resources and creating this imperial story again in outer space. We don't want that. Now, scroll back to when the space race began, when Soviet Union launched the first satellite into, which was the first country to launch a satellite into outer space? Soviet Union. Which was the first country to put a man outside in space? Soviet Union. So when that happened, United States came out and used the United Nations to say peaceful uses for outer space, whole world must share in whatever is there in outer space, no one country should dominate, everybody should be equal, all should enjoy benefit, etc. That memory is gone, and now this kind of approach is taken. So you can also say that the American approach has been inconsistent, that the liberal ethos has been flawed by an excessive attachment to capitalist norms, which end up distorting the outcomes that are claimed for liberalism. And China and Russia are showing the limits of that. They are actually far more progressive in many issues. These are not the only ones. Now you can say they are pretending, they are actually dictators, but the point is that they are widening a debate that is otherwise not happening at all. And they are introducing a very valuable point of view. Yeah. So you ask, what should we think about? We have to recalculate. We thought China and Russia are bad and America are good. We have to keep our minds open and say, what is the discussion? What are the positions being taken? And, you know, where do we stand on this issue, that issue, and not follow blindly any one country. Yeah.
India is also trying to do its own way, and obviously we have significant Indian diaspora in USA, but recent this visa controversy, and we only come to know the clear picture post the oath taking ceremony. So my question is here, in case if there is restrictions on visa, and then obviously Indian diaspora, the kind of people we have, and they are also voters. So again, point I'm trying to...
No, they are not voters, they cannot vote.
Okay, but the people who have now they have green card,
Yeah.
but some of them they have only working visa.
Yeah.
And if it is not continued, then obviously all of them, they will have no option but to come back to India again. And there are many scholars who are kind of celebrating it. They're saying that this is a permanent solution to Indian brain drain, because now these people, because they are not supposed to work there, they have to come back, and obviously they can contribute to the Indian society. So what kind of effect you feel it would have on the...
It's hard to say. It's hard to say, and it's clear that the Trump cabinet itself is divided on this issue. So, I mean, Trump's method seems to me to embrace opposites. Embrace opposites and let the chaos, be a disruptor. Disruptor is the new. That's what you want to be. You want to be a disruptor. So that carries a unpredictability with it. So it's impossible to say what will happen. And of course, the other thing that you didn't mention, but Trump was very fortunate that the economy was in an upswing and he benefited from that. Nothing to do with him. Everybody's predicting a recession now. And that is going to be very difficult for Trump because he doesn't know how to deal with bad image. And it could lead him to take many steps that are left wing, right wing, whatever it is, but it's going to be even more turbulent with the recession, if the recession comes. People are predicting it. But your point about brain drain, I mean, of course, yes, people should come here and work and so on. It's just that you take myself. I'm working on India. I continue to work on India. I'm not, so yes, people who work on other subjects, but it is not that, it's a one-way process. There is a two-way street here. That's all I want to say.
So I had little difficulty understanding that. And also how digital platforms, using digital platforms, we are coming back to rent-seeking.
Okay, so everything is coming to me free. I watch my YouTube videos, I read my, or I find where it's free. I avoid all the subscription portals. I only go where it's free. And I tell myself, I'm a smart fellow, I'm getting all this for free. But we all know that my attention is being marketed and sold, and that's how the content is being provided for free. It is not free. There are algorithms that are able to judge my engagement in the media and treat it in such a way that maximum profits can be achieved. So that is the rent is indirect. To say you don't feel it. You may not feel it, right? It's much more indirect, but for the same reason, it is much more powerful. And we see elections being influenced, campaigns being influenced, without people realizing, positions, they are nudged towards one position or other by algorithms. I get in my video feed, you watch this, you watch that, in the same way people are led to directions that they may not have chosen at all. And that is the effect of this rent-based model that we have now.
Story yesterday in Financial Express about data localization, and Mukesh Ambani is extremely aggressive about proposing that data owned by Indians in various platforms should be based out of India, and many of Indian companies are demanding for data localization. So do you see this rent-seeking attitude is demonstrated by these big corporations, specifically Reliance? Because last year I happened to meet a person from Times of India group, and he said that the way Jio is now, the Jio corporation or Jio networks is actually spreading in India. It is now as if roti, kapda, makan and Jio. That's how their dominance is. So do you see this rent-seeking attitude is demonstrated by Jio when they say that data should be localized in India? And where do you see this is going from here now?
Well, but they give free data. Well, it's not free.
They're able to influence you, and many people have attributed 2014, 2019 election to Geo. So yes, I mean, I think in addition to data localization, there must be other provisions about more democratic forms of control, and that question is not being posed.